the snakebite problem in Nepal and in Southeast Asia generally? How can we end snakebite deaths? And what are the things that need to happen? So I guess the first question should go to David Worrell. And David, from a clinical perspective, what do you think are the key things that need to be done to solve the problem?
Well, very briefly, because I've already talked about this, a lot of it is to do with training at all levels of the health service and providing the basic necessities. And we've just heard a talk about one of those basic necessities, which is anti-venom. So I would emphasise training of staff and including and improving provision. And as we've also heard, you've got to get the patients to medical care. And that can be pretty difficult in some of the terrain that you have in Nepal. So clever ideas like motorcycle ambulances and so on.
Okay, and we've just heard from Dr. Sharma, so I might ask you the next question. From a Ministry of Health perspective, where does the Ministry see snakebite going next? What do you think are the next steps to take place in Nepal that could potentially be a model for other countries?
Thank you. Actually, in Nepal, snakebite is a public health problem. It is recognized as a public health problem. That's why we have a program. We have a unit, zoonotic unit in epidemiology, disease control divisions. Through that, we are providing educations to the community, training to the different healthcare workers, and establishing and implementations of these technical guidelines through the different treatment centers. From the Ministry of Health and Population's perspective, snakebite is more concentrated in the Terai regions. And recently, Nepal has undergone the federal systems, that is devolved health systems. That means we have a different local government as well. We have 753 local governments. So local governments, they can have their plan, their own, and they can find local knowledge, what is the problem of the snake bite. They can map their areas as well. This is a new opportunity for us because of the devolved health systems. And from the treatment perspective, the Ministry of Health and Populations has the mandate to make standards, guidelines, and other capacity building systems from the federal governments. And we can capacity enhancement programs. We can have such kind of programs to the province and local level. And just like I presented, the snake anti-venom production is not available in Nepal. And that is also still, it is under discussions, so that probably for the treatment perspective, we may go for the snake anti-venom production possibilities if all the prerequisites are fulfilled.
And Dr. Punde, how important do you think the role of community education and primary healthcare education is to solving this problem?
I couldn't get you.
How important do you think the role of community education and the education of primary healthcare workers at the coalface is?
The basic goal to reduce the mortality is awareness. So that could be first social and then political and medical. So unless and until each one concept is applied, the mortality will not go down. We are conducting a lot of training programs, but my humble suggestion will be, why not to use electronic media? In the whole world, Rotary has done polio. So teach each one. If such kind of awareness program is implemented through electronic media regarding do's and don'ts of snakebite, lot of awareness will be there.
Professor Faiz, so you're from Bangladesh. What opportunities do you think there are for regional cooperation, collaboration between countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka to tackle this problem? Because you all have a common snake fauna and you all have very common clinical and epidemiological problems. So how would you see promoting this at a regional level?
Thank you. I think it is crucially important to have country-specific antivenom. But as we listen to Dr. Sharma, it is not easily available to. But what is the next option? I think very crucially important thing is to have the venom source for individual country. That is very much essential, not only for production of antivenom, but also to see what is the effectiveness, efficacy of the antivenom that we are using can neutralize the venom of our local origin. For that reason, I think the capacity is there. We are fortunate to have got at least half a dozen pharmaceuticals in India, government and private, as well as we have got the best practice in Thailand. So I think to start with, we should have local capacity to have the, I should not say it's farm, but a place where the venomous snakes can be scientifically, I should say humanly reared, scientifically reared, taken care, and venom extraction can be done, and that venom can be utilized for a number of series of very basic things, and with the target of having country-specific antivenom. I think this is very crucially important. At the same time, we should have this translation of this global map into regional map, regional cost-state strategy and country-specific strategy, and we should start it as soon as possible. Before we get this, I think we can start the dialogue from this very important meeting. We should have the cost-state roadmap, country-specific roadmap, with specific attention to multi-stakeholder involvement, with special reference to mitigation by massive community awareness by existing tools. The common areas are three. One is very important is first aid, which is inappropriate. So we can have a harmonized first aid, we can have a harmonized rapid referral, as well as strengthening primary healthcare system. District health system in Nepal, sub-district health system in Bangladesh, tehsil health system in India, which is a mandate for us. With this, I think it will be crucially important to have this strengthened health system, community health system. The WHO mandate is self-care model. The points we are discussing is yesterday is a self-care model. The community should come forward for the prevention, for the treatment seeking, as well as treatment seeking to scientific treatment. I think with this, the ample opportunity of regional collaboration between the three countries, some best practices in India, some best practices in Nepal, some best practices in Bangladesh or other countries, we should use this opportunity. Time is running out. We should take it forward. Thank you.
If I can go back to Professor Worrell, the question of first aid just came up. There's nothing currently recommended in this region as a first aid model that's been fully validated. How do you solve that problem? How do you come up with a regional form of first aid recommendation?
I think we must be quite explicit about the methods that we reject. And I don't think anyone in this room would really recommend a tight tourniquet, for example, because of the risks. And then what are we left with if we've removed all the harmful things which we know about, cutting and binding and interfering with the wound? I think that the method which has most to say for itself practically and with supporting data is the pressure pad immobilization method. But I'm interested to see that the Australian crepe bandage method, which is not even used much in Australia now, is still being promoted in the region. I think that's very surprising. But David, this route holds an enormous resource of country-specific information. And I'd really like to hear from the Nepali health workers in the audience about their view of some of these issues. Because we pontificate from a platform from our ivory towers of academic excellence and so on. But I always come to Nepal to learn, and it seems to me there are many people in this audience who can teach me things that I really don't know about the conditions and the particular problems. So as far as first aid is concerned, if it's anything like the countries where I've worked, there will be a whole lot of really damaging first aid methods being used, and you can, to some extent, combat that through good community education. But people tend to go back to the familiar methods, the ways that they've been taught, the way that's been used in their community. So on specifically what you asked me about as first aid, I'd really like to hear from the audience what sorts of disastrous and damaging first aid methods are used in Nepal.
And that's a good cue to ask the audience if anybody has something to say on this particular issue, particularly the health workers that are in the hospitals here in Nepal. We'd like to hear about your experiences of what sort of first aid is being used and what sort of issues you encounter. So is there anybody who'd like to comment?
Thank you very much. I am Dr. Ahmed and I studied my medical degree from Bangladesh, and currently now I'm working in Nepal, and I have been interested in snakes and snakebite for a very long period of time. And while I was even studying in Bangladesh, I used to see a lot of cases. I think I speak for both the country in a similar fashion, and while I was in Bangladesh as well, while looking at the snakebite cases, often people, they apply the first aid as they knew. I mean, as orthodox the method could be, but they have this idea that they should have used the first aid. But always when the patient comes to the hospital, either they were applying a very tight tourniquet, they apply some really greasy, muddy substance, or some herbal medications, and looking at that, people barely have any idea on how to use the proper first aid method. And there was one very interesting case in Chittagong Medical College. One boy was actually bitten in the neck region, and they had applied tourniquet. And I'm very glad that the tourniquet wasn't tight enough, but the tourniquet was around the neck. So, I mean, they are aware that there should be first aid, something to be done, but they are not aware how to make it properly. So coming back to Nepal and working in hospital, I worked with Dr. Sabilal Thapa, and he has one of the most snakebite treatment center in that area. And during the stay, we conducted different programs on how to apply the proper first aid and all the preliminary requirements to do if snakes ever bite you, or all the preventive methods that how can you prevent a snake bite. And I hope it helped a bit in the community level, because everything starts from the community level, because regarding the poor socioeconomic condition and the occupational hazards, the snake bite is more proportionate to that extent. And I think we were able to make a few changes, but still the idea is very deep rooted, and I think it takes a lot of time and a lot of contribution to implement changes regarding all these things. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you very much. We have done a lot of awareness programs in our area, but still people are using tourniquets. And I had seen that in some tribal people, they are giving right pressure for applying the tourniquets. I have observed this many times. Immediately after leaving the tourniquet, the blood pressure comes down. So they are applying at a very proper pressure, and some people are applying wrongly. But one important thing is that cutting by blade is very common in our area. In the swiper bite patients, we had seen active bleeding after cutting due to the blade. That is very dangerous procedure. And third thing I observed is the wrong transportation methods. People traveling the patient on the motorcycle, and many times patient is unconscious or drowsy, and his feet are touching to the roads and getting crushed and damaged. 2 patients required amputation due to that. So wrong transportation methods are very dangerous. So we have to make people more about that. And fourth important thing is that Dr. Warrell said about the compression bandages. We have received some compression bandages, around 1,000 compression bandages from Australia. We tried to distribute them, but unfortunately nobody returned with application of the compression bandage again. So that is a big problem. So whether it is useful or not, that I want to know. And to distribute in a large community and getting back it again with the patient is very difficult problem. So these are my observations.
One more observation is, in our area, a lot of people, they put native medicine in throat and eyes. Patient has a non-poisonous bite and he lost the vision. Very advanced. And they apply multiple tourniquets, 10, 12.
I am Dr. D.C. Patel from Gujarat. I am general surgeon, but I am practicing on snake bite since last 30 years. I observed that in rural area, tourniquet is a very important thing. Where relatives do tight tourniquet. I did one amputation, below elbow amputation in non-venomous rat bites patient. That is very wrong. Another thing is awareness program is very important to reduce snake bite mortality. Awareness program include identification of snake to community, occurrence of incidents, prevention of bite, and do or not to do. Sometimes people what to do, they first go to faith healer and time wasted to the patient. Another thing, Dr. Raut sir, Dr. Punde sir and me, practicing at rural area, our staff should know some maneuver like endotracheal tube intubation is very important. Because in neurogenic, there's cobra and crate bite patient, intubation is a very important at last moment. So staff should also know the intubation procedure. Thank you.
So we heard from Nepal, India. Anybody would like to volunteer from Sri Lanka? Any experience?
I think cost and availability are 2 important things to think about in first aid. A tourniquet doesn't usually cost anything and it's very available, so that's why people use it. For other things, if you try and cost some of the other options, a few years back when we tried to cost crepe bandages, it's more than a day's salary. So there are things along those lines that are really important to consider in first aid.
Okay, so just a question, why is everyone so interested in using an Australian first aid method for non-Australian snake bites? Okay, because there's a reasonably strong argument that in viper bites this could actually cause a lot more harm than good, in just the same way that tourniquets do.
I'm in a neurotoxic area.
So the other question too is, and we all know that change is a difficult thing for anyone to embrace. If you get a new head of surgery who comes in and he all of a sudden says we're going to stop doing things the way we've done them for 10 or 20 years, we're going to do them this way instead, a lot of people will be very resistant to change. And in communities it's exactly the same thing. If you go into a community and try and tell them to stop using the methods that they've been using for the last 30 years, it's very difficult to get people to separate themselves from what they've come to know and trust. So does anybody have any particular thoughts on how you can effectively engage with communities and get them to change deep-seated and deeply rooted behaviours effectively? And Priyanka might like to comment. Exactly, come on. How do you change people's attitudes when the things that they're doing are really deeply rooted in tradition and...
So
So thank you very much for asking this question. One thing that we have done, see, we have to look at, there's such a big number of snakebite deaths happening. So just working in one village or just one district is not enough. So what do you do to strategically reach out to thousands of people? So what we have done is we have created a 4-minute video on do's and don'ts in case of a snake bite. And what do you do to ensure that you don't get bitten in the first place? Now this, in Southeast Asia actually, many of the people, they use cell phones, and WhatsApp is very common. Social media is very common. So that is, this video can really help. It has already reached thousands, lakhs of people actually. And we have converted this into 7 regional languages, and we're going to convert it into 2 more. So 9 regional languages in India. It will cover the length and breadth of the country. We are looking for somebody in Nepal who can do this for us, the Nepali dubbing. We like to do it for Nepal as well. If we do it in Nepalese, we can, not only cater to the people who are on the border areas of India, but also Nepal. So these are the things which yesterday the mainstream Indian media, Times of India, they have covered the story on all the various things that needs to be done. This is what we need, strategically. If we are able to reach out to the media, we are able to use social media and other levels of communication, where thousands of people know about this cause. That is how we will probably, that's the first step, I feel.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Yeah, Isa?
I'm Isa, I'm the conference coordinator. You may know me from yesterday. When we organized this conference, we also gave 40 travel grants to the young medical officers from the Terai. We want to hear your stories, and there just isn't enough time in this forum. You are the persons who are at the front line. You are treating the Nepali patients, but we also understand that these are maybe the first few years of your medical career, and maybe you're reluctant to share with us in this forum. So what I would say to you, please write to us. Write to us at the webpage. Tell us your stories, tell us your experience, tell us what you need. You can do it from here, from this conference. In your conference bag was a notebook. Write us your story. Take your cell phone, take the picture, send us that JPEG file. We want to hear what you have to say. Please give us your stories. That's all I can say. Isa.
Thank you. I would like to add something to that. I'm Dr. Naveen Bhatta, working in Boilbata Hospital, Assam, a rural part of Nepal. So while seeing cases, when we come through the cases of snake bite, most of the people have been using the hops, apart from the use of tourniquets and cutting through the bitten part. They are very common, but adding to that, use of hops, like it is called bismara in Nepali, that means poison killer in English. So people have been using it over the wound side, thinking that it would decrease the amount of poison in the body. So most of the people have been using in that bismara, which is found in the upper high heels. But those patients come with abscess and cellulitis over the wound part, and even needing incision, debridement, and even amputation have been done. So we have been counseling those people and even their visitors and other visitors residing in the inpatient departments, that these may be the consequences of using these poison killers. So better to avoid these and come to the healthcare immediately. Thank you.
Just one more thing. We're just sitting up here getting stories and questions. So if you want to get, especially the doctor by me here, to his emails, you can also send them straight to him to get the information, because we really want to hear from those who are in the field. Thank you.
Dr. Isabella said to hear from the grant recipient, and they have been sensitized, they want to say more.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Yogesh Punde and I am currently working as a medical officer in Lumini Provisional Hospital, Gutul. And first of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee for providing me travel grant and making me a part of this program. I have been working there since 3 months, and it is a referral center from various peripheral health institutions, and we receive about 8 to 10 cases of snakebite each day, among which about 5 to 6 are of venomous bites, and about 1 to 2 cases requiring intubation and ventilator support each day. And many things have been mentioned earlier about the use of tourniquet and cutting at the bite wounds, and it is also already mentioned about the requirements of awareness program to the public. What I would like to mention, and especially I would like to ask Minister of Health and Population, Nepal government, and I think we have some representatives from EDCD also here. And we receive most of the cases from very far places, including hilly regions. And most of the cases, what we get from the history is that they do not get the primary support or first aid management. Even ASBS is also not available in different big health institutions like district hospital, primary healthcare centers, and we have to receive the cases. They arrive at our center even after 5 to 6 hours, some cases even after 12 hours. And I think I want to ask what the Minister of Health and Population, Nepal government, has any policies regarding the making availability of anti-venom to most of the peripheral health institutions that are at the high risk of having snake bite. And the next thing is the severe cases requiring ventilator support. We manage them primarily, we intubate them, but we have limited ICU beds and we can't keep the patients there, and we have to refer. And one bad thing what we have is the private health institutions like medical colleges do not take the snake bite cases, and we have to refer them only to the government hospitals. For example, I work there in Gutul, and the referral center for us is only to the Chittor, and that requires about 3 to 4 hours of travel with bagging. So what is the policy of Nepal government requiring about this, making the availability of the anti-snake venom to the peripheral health institutions, and regarding the treatment of snake bite cases in private health institutions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Because Nepal policy Ministry of Health and Population. So many young doctors from around the country. Sorry. So the question is for the Ministry of Health and Population regarding the policy. I think Ministry of Health and Population has prioritized the snake bite treatment. It is clearly our policy. There is no, I think there is no such thing that we undermine the snake bite. Snake bite is one of the priority. That's why Epidemiology and Disease Control Center has the zoonotic sections to handle all the issues. But currently, yes, there is a problem of the treatment centers, maybe sometimes availability of the snake antivenom is, I have already presented in my presentations. Sometimes it happens because of some kind of challenges in the supply chain management that we need to improve it. Your suggestion is well taken, and we have to see again. And then one of the experience that I have observed, 2 years ago I visited some of the treatment centers. Most of the time the treatment was provided by paramedics. And most of the time the medical officers, the graduated medical officers, they are reluctant to treat the snake bite. That is also a problem in our country. And because they want to be more safer side, there must be a ICU bed, there must be a ventilator. Without monitoring devices, medical doctors are reluctant to treat the snake bite victim as well. That is also some places there is such kind of practices, but we have very much committed to treat and save the life of the snake bite victims. I think from the EDCD, we have the zoonotic section chief, Dr. Samir is there. As I discussed yesterday evening with the EDCD director, Dr. Vivek Kumar, there is no problem on the supply chain currently. Hopefully, there might be some turbulence because we don't have the snake anti-venom production in country, and our country has geographically very difficult to supply. Sometimes there might be a problem, but we have these devolved health systems. The central level always can't supply everything to the local level. So we have the government, 753 governments there. In Budol there is governments, in Japa there is government, there is a political leaderships everywhere. So I think we have to coordinate with those people in the community. So it is a devolved health system. So I think central levels is a federal government, Minister of Health and Population has only few functions. For example, developing the standards, protocols, guidelines. And this is the major functions, policy and regulations, acts and regulations. This is the major functions of the Ministry of Health at the federal level. There is a Ministry of Social Development at the province level as well. Your concern is very valid, but we have opportunity that we need to use that opportunity. And regarding the hospitals, overall, I have observed some hospital quality in the recent days in Nepal as well. There is serious issues that we will discuss later, maybe answer the young doctor. And may I add about this community education thing. Basically, unlearning is very difficult than learning. And snakebite is not a new problem. I think from the human evolution, since then the snakes are there. We are living together. So snakes are not enemies, and probably we public health experts, we all experts are failed to communicate with the community people. Because, tourniquet. Many times from the many channels we communicated this. Maybe we need to think about this, our communication strategy. I would say we failed to communicate that. Why we failed? That need to be checked. Maybe researchers can find out some reasons why we cannot convince the people not to use tourniquet. Yes, the Australian method, first aid, the crepe bandage. The people who are in the community, they don't know what is the difference between the other bandage and crepe bandage. There is a gray border. I think that is also one issue. From my knowledge, the best place to communicate the best messages is school. From the school, if we start from the school, if we teach the students from the schools, I think that is the best way to communicate the messages and to circulate the messages. Otherwise, it is very difficult to change the behavior. And we always make workshops to design another communication strategy and talk about the tourniquets and these things. So do's and don'ts should come through the community.
All right, unfortunately there's no time to go any further or you won't get any morning tea. But later this afternoon, we do need to come back to this question, and I want to know from the audience what you think can be done to stop people from dying of snakebite in South Asia. So you've got the next few hours, the next few sessions to think about that, but before the end of the day, we want to hear by a show of hands what you think are the most effective things that can be done. So we'll stop now and we'll break for morning tea. If we